Hey, it's the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Welcome in. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We'll be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sport topics, and plenty of them to talk about. Wade, how's it going?
What's happening, Mo? Good to be with you and see everybody today. You are right. We got a big old show lined up for this Feel Good Friday.
Looking forward to it, man. In the next hour, we will visit with Nick Kelly of AL.com. There is a fairly big football game going on down in Tuscaloosa this weekend. And, you know, for the home crowd, that's nothing new. Alabama's used to playing big football games. But the visiting team, 16th ranked Vanderbilt, going into Bryant-Denny this weekend. Looking forward to talking to Nick and getting his thoughts on that matchup and other stuff across the Southeastern Conference this weekend as we contemplate another big college football weekend. In the next segment, we'll be joined by Willie G. Ramirez of ESPN Las Vegas to talk a little WNBA Finals as the Aces get set to host the Phoenix Mercury Game 1 tonight. I'm sure that won't be the only WNBA topic we take on. It's been an interesting week for women's professional basketball. So looking forward to checking in with our guy, Willie G. Ramirez, in the next segment. We'll also be talking a little baseball as the postseason continues without either my or Wade's team, but they have still managed to actually get through a round of postseason play without the Braves and the Astros. I wasn't sure they'd be able to, but they did. Talk a little NFL and a little NFL adjacent football as well. Stick around for that. Obviously, again, we'll talk some college football. We'll also get into some professional soccer, a little hockey. There's a college basketball item I'm hoping we can get to over the course of the next couple of hours as well. And NASCAR continues with its playoffs. So, and don't forget, in the final segment of the show, Wade and I will be giving you our 10 weekend winners from the Wonder Slate. Listen, but choose wisely if you choose to make any investments based on our insight or lack thereof, because it wasn't great last weekend.
Yeah, entertainment purposes only, as we like to say.
There we go.
Sure.
There we go. So, yeah, buyer beware, as it were. You get what you pay for, though, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, that said, that is the map for the next couple of hours here on Main Street Sports Today. Let's go ahead and get started down the road, Wade, with yesterday's results and this weekend's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
To the rundown we go, ladies and gentlemen. And on a Friday, we start things off with your Thursday night results. And we start on the gridiron, where a number of high school games were played last night. Centennial defeating Franklin 37-6 to kick us off. It was Clay County 30, Middle Tennessee Christian 20. Kirkwood topping Laverne last night 40-9. Oakville with a 35-14 win over Rockvale. Ravenwood defeating Independence last night 28-7. You can find Mo with some coverage, I believe, at Main Street Murray, correct?
Correct.
Jackpot, baby, as we got you covered from last night on a Thursday. Riverdale with a 31-13 win over Smyrna last night. More scores. It was Clarksville with a 20-7 win over Siegel. Blackman picking up a 35-7 victory versus Stewart's Creek. And in one of the weirdest football games I've ever seen in my entire life, East Nashville defeats Stratford 42-16. Couple safeties, 3 different kickoff returns, 40-something penalties. What's not to like last night? But it was a fun one on Thursday night to cap our high school football scoreboard. Volleyball action from last night. Gallatin with a 3-0 win versus Beach. Cascade with a 5-setter versus Spring Hill. It was Lincoln County 3, Columbia 1. Community topping Giles County 3-zip. Forest doing the same to Battle Creek. It was Franklin Road Academy with a 3-1 win over BGA. Collinwood 3, Hampshire nothing. Coffee County and Lawrence County went 5 sets, but it was Coffee County winning that one 3-2. Middle Tennessee Christian 3-1 over Providence Christian. It was Murfreesboro Central Magnet 3, Marshall County nothing. Riverdale blanking Rockvale last night. Eagle doing the same to Siegel. Summertown and Zion Christian also picked up shutout victories. Summertown over Lewis County and Zion Christian topping Perry County.
On the pitch on a Thursday, it was Allen County, Kentucky with a 5-0 win over East Robertson. It was also Nolensville 1, Blackman 0. Brentwood with a 3-1 win over Siegel. Friendship Christian and Christian Community played to a 2-2 draw. Cookville with a 2-0 win over Smyrna. It was Culleoka 6, Cornersville 2. Pope John Paul II 2, Ensworth 0. Battle Creek with a 5-0 win over Franklin Christian. It was Zion Christian 1, Giles County 1, a draw between the Eagles and the Bobcats, or Lady Eagles and Lady Bobcats, excuse me. Speaking of Bobcats, it was Greenbrier falling to White House 8-0. Hendersonville with a 9-1 win over Rossview. Henry County 4, Clarksville Northeast 0. Donaldson Christian with a 7-0 win over Hume Fogg. It was Hunters Lane 7, Ezel Harding 0. Overton doubling up Good Pasture 4-2. Tullahoma with a 9-0 win over Kip Antioch Global. Riverdale and Lebanon play to a scoreless draw. Riveting soccer right there. Station Camp 3, Liberty Creek 3. Columbia Central and Lincoln County play to a 1-1 draw. It was University School of Nashville 2. Martin Luther King 1. Franklin County with a 3-1 win over Murfreesboro Central. Independence blanked Rockvale 2-0. Summit 7, Gallatin 1. Valor Collegiate 4, Green Hill 0. Portland 5, White House Heritage 1. And Wilson Central blanking Laverne 3-0. Major League Baseball yesterday, wild card rounds winding up. These winners all advanced to divisional round play starting this weekend. Detroit with a 6-3 win over Cleveland at Cleveland. Tough loss for the Guardians there after rallying back from 15.5 games down to win the AL Central. Tough out for the host Guardians there. Chicago Cubs moving on with a 3-1 win over the San Diego Padres, and the Padres were none too happy about it. The New York Yankees, we'll talk more about this one later, 4-0 over the Red Sox to move on as well. And as we mentioned earlier in NFL, well, I think we might have mentioned this off air. NFL Thursday night football, it was the San Francisco 49ers 26, the Los Angeles Rams 23 in overtime. We'll talk more about that one later as well.
Speaking of football, Friday night, crank up the scoreboard watching, folks. Get out to a game, and you got a number to pick from as we roll through these here, all scheduled to kick off unless otherwise stated at 7 p.m. Here we go. John Overton is going to travel tonight to Antioch. Montgomery Central visiting Battle Creek. It'll be MUS at Brentwood Academy. Sycamore is on the road tonight at Camden Central. Rossview will travel to Cane Ridge. Giles County's on the road down at Cascade tonight. Waverly traveling to Cheatham County. Henry County is visiting Clarksville Northeast. Brentwood will be on the road at Coffee County. Clarksville Northwest is visiting Creekwood. BGA is at Davidson Academy. Moore County will make the trip over to Eagleville tonight. East Hickman is at East Robertson. Knoxville Catholic will be at Innsworth. It'll be Clarksville Academy at Ezel Harding. Harpeth will be at Fairview tonight at 7. Lipscomb Academy at Father Ryan. Columbia is at Franklin County. Other games, Good Pasture at Franklin Road Academy. Lane Kiffin posting a picture, Mo. He was down at FRA this afternoon. I wonder if he'll stick around for Good Pasture and FRA here this evening. DCA at Friendship Christian tonight at 7. Mount Juliet at Gallatin. Glencliff is at Green Hill. It'll be Summit at Hendersonville this evening. Nolensville traveling to Hillsboro. Hickman County at Houston County tonight. Stewart County at Innovation Academy. And Red Boiling Springs is visiting Joe Burns.
More high school football, more 7 o'clock kickoffs. It's the Battle of the Woods, Maple at Ken at 7 o'clock tonight. Page is at Lawson. Wilson Central goes to Lebanon. Big Wilson County showdown there. Springfield is at Liberty Creek. Christ Presbyterian Academy goes to Montgomery Bell Academy. Marshall County is hosting Columbia Academy. West Creek is at McGavock. Franklin Christian travels to Mount Juliet Christian. Adamsville is at Mount Pleasant. Bartlett comes up I-40 to Pearl Cone, taking on the Firebirds. It's Grace Christian of Franklin at Pope John Paul II. Portland hosting Hunters Lane. Christian Community is at Providence Christian. Cornersville goes to Richland. Watertown is at Sequatchie County. Beach is at Station Camp. Gordonsville goes to Westmoreland. White House hosts Greenbrier. Whites Creek goes to White House Heritage. And Pickett County is at Zion Christian at 7 o'clock tonight. Volleyball action this evening. It's a 6 o'clock start for Summertown at Columbia Central. Also, we don't have a time for this one, but Blackman is at Oakland today. Girls soccer, 3 o'clock, top of the hour. Battleground Academy is at Columbia Academy. At 4:30, Antioch is hosting St. Cecilia. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, game one of the WNBA Championship Series is tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPN when Phoenix goes to the Las Vegas Aces.
Rolling into Saturday, we do have a high school game as Spring Hill will be at Dixon County, but that game will be played at Creekwood, and that game gets underway at 11 a.m. Girls soccer coming your way Saturday. Independence Academy will be at Kip Antioch Global, set for a 5 p.m. kickoff. Again, girls soccer action on Saturday. College football of local interest, we got TSU at Eastern Illinois. That game gets underway at 2 p.m. on ESPN+. Vanderbilt at Alabama begins at 2:30 on ABC. It'll be West Georgia at Austin Peay. That kickoff is set for 3 o'clock, and you can see it on ESPN+. MLS, right back in action, is NSC, and they will be taking on CF. Got to get that correct. They kind of threw me for a loop there, Mo. CF Montreal on the road. CF Montreal is Nashville. That kickoff is set for 1:30. You can see it on Apple TV. MLB action, we got 4 big games tomorrow as those series get underway. Chicago at Milwaukee. That first pitch is set for 1:08 p.m. on TBS. The Yankees are at the Blue Jays at 3:08 on Fox. It'll be the Dodgers at the Phillies at 5:38 on TBS. And your nightcap is Detroit at Seattle. First pitch comes your way at 7:38. That game will be shown on FS1.
Sunday sports action for you to view at 3:05. It is the Tennessee Titans at the Arizona Cardinals. You can see it on CBS. Game 2 of the WNBA Finals is at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon as Phoenix continues at Las Vegas. You can see that one on ABC. Major League Baseball postseason play. Game 2 of the ALDS between the Yankees and the host Toronto Blue Jays is a 3:08 first pitch. That one is on FS1. It is followed at 7:03 on FS1 by Detroit at Seattle. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown. Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. Wade, I'm kind of fascinated by this.
Yes.
Roger Goodell says that by the time flag football is being contested in the LA Olympics in 2028, it will be a professional sport in the United States, courtesy of the NFL. Goodell, speaking in London yesterday, discussed the NFL's plans to launch a professional flag football league. Quote, "We are committed to creating a women's professional league and a men's professional flag league. We've had a great deal of interest in that, and I expect that we'll be able to do that, launch that in the next couple of years. The demand is there. We're seeing colleges in the States and universities internationally that also want to make it a part of their program. If you set that structure up where there's youth leagues going into high school, into college, and then professional, I think you can develop a system of scale. That's an important infrastructure that we need to create." You know, and to that end, I saw an announcement earlier this week. The University of North Alabama down in Florence is apparently starting a women's flag football program. Already Alabama State has one. So, I mean, you're not just seeing it at the NAIA level, but you're starting to see NCAA women's flag football programs at the collegiate level as well. And so I guess professional is the next logical step, but I didn't expect it that quickly.
Don't know that we necessarily maybe expected it that quickly, but the timing could not be more sensational, right? With with the Olympics, if they go off exactly like they're supposed to, and you get that buzz, it's not only going to draw eyeballs in that immediate moment of the games themselves, but then, yeah, a chance to expand upon that. So kind of lay down the, groundwork now, perhaps. We saw them take this for what it's worth. But, we saw them make a move. They got flag football in the Pro Bowl. Hold your Pro Bowl jokes, folks. But they moved flag football into the Pro Bowl, kind of. Maybe they were just infiltrating us a little bit, Mo. We saw Jalen Hurts already been featured in a commercial, that's touting the Olympics and, kind of trying to draw up some buzz. The partnership, they haven't been at odds, really. So if you're not going to be at odds, you might as well go all in on this and make a little cha-ching, cha-ching, if you catch my drift.
No question. This isn't the first time that someone involved with the NFL has talked about this. Former league chief media officer Brian Rolapp had mentioned back in February, we do believe as it grows in popularity that there is room for more leagues, including a professional league, and that would clearly have a media package as well. We're big believers in flag football for a lot of reasons. It's clearly going to be an Olympic sport, so we think it has international potential. One of the greatest things about flag football is half of our fans right now are female, but don't really have access to playing the game competitively. We are now providing that. And again, it's growing in leaps and bounds pretty much at every level, at the high school level, at the collegiate level. So why not go ahead and make the next step and professionalize the sport? It's going to be interesting to watch that evolve and develop. And to your point, Wade, it's a great time, not just with what's going on in that sport, but what's going on in women's sports, period. With the shirts that are out there, everyone watches women's sports and that kind of thing. And I don't disagree. So.
Yeah. And the other thing, Mo, you got to think about in this framework here too, we're trending and marching every year. We get more and more toward the globalization. The NFL's talked about we want to be an international game. Not every country in the world is realistically equipped to participate in some version of legit 11-on-11 tackle pro football. Almost every, which is why soccer is the most popular sport in the world, right? Because the barrier to entry is so low. There are minimal costs when you're talking about flag football. There are minimal barriers to entry. So if you kind of expand that, okay, we're looking at a nation that for some reason can't put together a team. Well, guess what? You can sure as heck trot out 11 folks, 14 folks and run a 7-on-7 flag game, right? I mean, you can kind of see the tea leaves, or at least that's the way I'm kind of seeing the tea leaves. This is a further way to expand that global initiative as well. It's a beautiful piece of business that is going to really seemingly benefit everybody. Like you said, we get to touch the small colleges. We get to see the growth of women's sports. We get to see some athletes that might have otherwise saw their careers kind of come to an end, continue that. And the NFL gets a piece of the pie at the end of the day, which is really kind of what it's truly all about.
Which is what it's truly all about. Absolutely. I mean, if there's money to be made, the NFL might as well be making it, right? So there we go. Professional flag football coming soon from no less than Roger Goodell, commissioner of the National Football League. Let's take a break here as we get into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will be joined by a friend of the show, Willie G. Ramirez, our man in Vegas, talking a little WNBA finals. Stick around.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now I'm ready, guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. As we await the arrival of Willie G. Ramirez to talk a little WNBA Finals, he'll be on the ground for this. Wade and I, I'm not as knowledgeable as Willie, but I can kind of set things up for Mr. Ramirez. You've got two teams that are not, foreign to the championship stage. The Aces have won 2 of the last 3 WNBA titles. The Mercuries have also won 3, but they've not won one since 2014, and Diana Taurasi was right in the middle of that. So this is a new look Mercury team vying for its first championship in 11 years. Again, the Aces going for their 3rd in 4 years. That streak broken up by the New York Liberty last year when they defeated the Lynx in the finals. So going to be a heck of a series, I think, obviously, by two teams. They're about 5 hours apart. And I think maybe the Aces were a little bit more expected to be here at the season's onset than the Mercury, but here we are. Also, here is Willie G. Ramirez to help us break this down. Willie, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, gentlemen? How are you?
Good. How
We're
you doing?
doing well. How are you?
Oh, man. It's been an absolutely crazy. It seems like every time I host my show or every time I come on somewhere or I'm brought on to talk about the Aces, the Golden Knights, the Raiders, no matter what time of year it is, I feel as if it's always busy. And it used to not be that way in Las Vegas. It used to be, June and July would slow down outside the NBA Summer League. August would get hyped up for UNLV football. Then all of a sudden, the arrival of the Golden Knights, and then the Aces, and then the Raiders. It's nonstop. So there's literally something going on. If I'm not on ESPN Radio in Las Vegas or hosting a watch party, for whatever it may be, it seems like there's something going on, and the Aces continue to prolong all of our WNBA coverage as they're now in the WNBA finals, as you guys have been talking about.
Tell us about that prolongment, because again, as we went through the season, there was a time when we didn't even know if the Aces were going to make the postseason, let alone make it to the finals. And then they went on that hellacious run there where they won their last 16 straight to close the regular season.
Yeah, 16 straight in the regular season, 17 overall into that first game against Seattle. Seattle takes the second game, and then Vegas wins the third and decisive game back here in Las Vegas. And then, of course, the Indiana Fever take them to 5 games and into overtime, which is a completely other story. But there are so many different moving parts to what the Aces have done. And the one person that refuses to take all the credit is the 4-time MVP, Asia Wilson, just like, the humble person that she's always been since getting here. And I've covered her since day one, when Bill Lambier and Dan Padnoff drafted her. Dan is now the 2-time GM of the year. He's down in Atlanta. And she just refuses to take the credit that all of a sudden she went on this tear, which really surged her into the MVP race. But, and it's understandable because Jewel Lloyd went to Becky Hammond before it actually happened and said, hey, start taking me off the bench. Let's try this. Becky refused to do it. And then she finally gave in. Melissa Smith arrives at the trade deadline. She's been an absolute difference maker in taking pressure off of Asia while adding help in the paint. She's a shot blocking machine. And she's in the happiest place she's been mentally through her career, whether it's been Indiana or Dallas, now Vegas. She just feels as if she's accepted as the person she is. There's no outside drama. And she said one of the biggest things, she's told me this multiple times, but I asked it yesterday so it could be out there for the national media to hear this, is that since arriving in Vegas, the social media has been nothing but love. It just goes to show you, I've been saying this all season. I think I may have said it one of the times I visited with y'all. I know I've said it on air here in Vegas. One of the biggest things that's ruined the enjoyment of covering the WNBA or watching the WNBA have been the fans, because you've all of a sudden gotten this new population of fandom, but they've gotten so ugly about things, right? And they come after different people. I saw a post today that had nothing to do with the Fever or Caitlin Clark, and the entire thread ended up becoming Caitlin Clark and the Fever. And so, it's sad, because this is why she gets 70% of the hate, is because of the drama that's brought up. That being said, Nalissa pointed out, she's like, it's been nothing. It's totally different here. So, and winning helps, yes, but at the same token, it's just a different vibe and how you're accepted. The bench play that includes Dana Evans and now Jewel Lloyd, but Dana Evans is a championship player who had a ring in Chicago and has experience. She said that this reminded her of that Chicago team that had 2 brutal losing streaks when they won the championship that year, with Kalia Copper, who was the MVP when they beat Phoenix. And that was the year before the Aces' first championship. So a lot of different moving parts to the second half success of this team, going 14-14 and then winning the last 16 games of the season. Realistically, the last third of the campaign.
Willie, it seems like, if nothing else, Vegas, I know they skirted by the storm, surviving a last-second shot in an elimination scenario. We talked about the overtime run there that the Fever kind of gave them, pushing them to the brink. But it feels like Vegas is now suddenly that they've got this. I'm trying to figure out how to best phrase this. It feels like they, number one, have a breath of fresh air that they've reached the finals, just reading the body language after the game the other night. And then also, it certainly feels like they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Are either one of those correct in your mind?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a chip, because I think what the core of this team, the core four, I should say, in reality, in terms of key roles on this championship caliber team, is Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, and Becky Hammond. But don't forget that Kia Stokes was a starter on those championship teams. Kirsten Bell came off the bench on those championship teams. So in reality, there's 6 players from that championship team that knew the system. And that was key, with Jewel Lloyd also saying, hey, take me off the bench, and put Kirsten Bell in lineup, because she's been starting, because she knows the system. She understands it, right? But the thing is, those 2 teams that won the championship did something that will never be repeated in this. You're never going to see it again, because what the league has adapted to is Becky Hammond's style of a spread offense, that up-tempo style, forcing defenses to sort of open things up, a little bit of driving kick. I mean, it's a very unique way of attacking, but there's so many teams that are doing it now and who have learned how to defend it. So when they did that, it threw teams off base, right? It took them literally a season and a half to catch up. This year, the Aces, really since last year, the Aces have been playing catch up with all the teams adapting to the new style of play. So in them doing that, this team has been through something different. And this is why I wrote earlier this season at the Sporting Tribune that this team might be better in terms of a team aspect than the two championship teams. Maybe not as dominating, but when you're talking about a team, winning as a team, I would put this team up against some of those other teams because of everything that they've had to overcome. It's a lot more special. Is a better word. You know, I've asked Becky and Asia this numerous times, and they're like, I don't know if I want to use the word better, but it's definitely special because of what they've overcome. And Becky, one thing that she did, a lot of people don't realize is she kind of let go of the steering wheel and told the ladies, I'm going to let y'all navigate and drive this vehicle. Y'all figure it out and learn how to play together. I can't coach unity. I can tell you how I want the system run, but y'all got to learn to play together. And that's what they did. So having a chip on their shoulder, I don't know, because maybe because people counted them out, but I think it's more so a humbleness chip that they've learned how to do things one-on-one, you know what I mean? Or excuse me, you know, with one another. And I will point this out that I think is special is Asia Wilson has an individual relationship with every single one of her teammates. And that's why recently when she won the 4th MVP and everybody's seen the videos that have went viral, every single one of them wrote an individual letter to her, letting them know how much they appreciate her. So I think there's a really special bond. So Wade, I mean, I don't know if it's a chip as much as it is just this this very unique feeling of that's hard to come by if you've never really felt overcoming adversity with a group of people.
Willie G. Ramirez of ESPN Las Vegas joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, Phoenix and Vegas open WNBA Championship Series play tonight at 7. Willie, we talked with Jeff Metcalf from Phoenix last week, I think it was. This
Great
Phoenix team wasn't necessarily expected to be here either, just from the standpoint that they moved on after last year from Diana Taurasi, who retired. They moved on from Brittany Griner, who went the free agent route, signed with the Dream, obviously. So there was a lot of revamping. I won't necessarily say rebuilding, but they certainly had to figure out how to do things a little bit differently in Phoenix this year as well. How have they been able to persevere and get to this point from where you sit?
Did Jeff tell you that? I'm curious. Did Jeff say that they weren't expected, or is that what you said?
That's what I said.
Okay, so here's
Jeff
the thing.
just said
I'm not surprised whatsoever. Now,
okay.
Let's go back to Wade's question. That's the team that has a chip on its shoulder. Because when you enter the postseason and everybody is saying New York's the defending champ, Minnesota's the number 1 seed, Las Vegas closed with 16 straight wins and has the 4-time MVP. Well, at that time, it was a 3-time MVP. Look out for Atlanta. That's the sleeper team. Look out for Seattle. All of a sudden, they're creeping up. Oh, my gosh, what's going to happen at the bottom? Who's going to be? Nobody said it had anything good or bad. Phoenix wasn't in anybody's conversation. And yet, you add that where Phoenix isn't being even talked about, when you add that to the one person who's never talked about until it's, and by the way, we need to include Alyssa Thomas in the MVP conversation, the defensive team conversation, the all-defensive player of the year, the this. We all forget about the veteran engine that helped lead Connecticut to 2 WNBA finals where she lost, right, with her fiance, DeWanna Bonner, who's now in Phoenix. They're also always left out of the conversation in individual talks after the season. So if there's a team with a chip on its shoulder that, betters, I tell you right now, this is, to me, is an even series. This is one of those series where it shouldn't be, the line to win the series shouldn't be that big. The value would be with the underdog if you could get plus 120 or higher, if anybody's out there betting this game. Because the Phoenix Mercury, under Nate Tebbets, who's in his second year, and yes, they lost Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi, Natasha Cloud. I get that. But they brought in Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabli to join Kalia Copper, who was, as I mentioned before, the MVP of the WNBA Finals in 2021 when they beat Phoenix, right? So she has championship experience. You add all the other components of depth and what this team has done to sort of prove the naysayers wrong. That's a team with the chip on its shoulder. I'm not surprised that they're there. Did I pick them? No. I thought that the winner of the winner of the Liberty Mercury series was in deep trouble only because of the way that the schedule was set up. The 1-1-1. You play in Phoenix, you travel to New York, then you come back for a third game to Phoenix. I thought that was going to be rough in having to go play Minnesota, which woman handled, I should say, excuse me, no disrespect, but destroyed the Golden State Valkyries. Now, Golden State took them to overtime in that second game, and Minnesota had to come from behind. I believe it went to overtime, didn't it? But nevertheless, Minnesota put it on them and ended that series in 2 games. So I thought that the winner would have its hands full, but then you see what Phoenix did in the second game in terms of defense, overcoming a 20-point deficit, then coming back to Phoenix, and then Nafisa Collier goes down. Cheryl Reeve has a meltdown. It sort of just fell into Phoenix's hands. Nevertheless, this is a really good basketball team that, in my opinion, is not that far off from the Las Vegas Aces, and in some respect, might be better. Here, put it this way. In the postseason this year, we're talking about the number 1 offense versus the number 1 defense. Phoenix in the playoffs this year has the number 1 scoring defense. Vegas has the number 1 scoring offense. This is going to be a series that could go 7 games.
Real quick, guys, a stat that I loved I saw earlier today. Phoenix is the first team ever in WNBA history to reach the finals twice in a 5-year span, and they don't have any of the same players that they had the last time they were in the finals. They have a completely new roster. But to Willie, your point, they are playing with a little, kind of pissed off energy coming into the postseason. And yeah, the bracket, kind of maybe broke a certain way and injuries and, and the series kind of played out the way it did versus Minnesota. But to your point, you can't take anything away what they've done. They have looked the part, if nothing else, getting to these finals, in my opinion.
Oh, if you go back and look at the complexion of this season in terms of lulls, teams that have had lulls, right? Like Minnesota started off dominating and then sort of fell a little back and forth there, even though they went, I believe, 3-2 without Nafisa Collier, but they showed a little bit of, maybe a little weariness down the stretch. Vegas early on, the Liberty mid to late season, the Fever, obviously, with what they went through. Phoenix just sort of had their losses mixed in between, but they never really lost their gumption and that chutzpah, right? They just were always relentless. And it's that defensive tenacity. And to be honest with you, we've seen the chatter about how physical this league has gotten and the different teams that are being blamed for different things. But Phoenix is as physical as they come. I had a text message from somebody within the organization right after the series, and I was like, see you soon. Can't wait to catch up. And this person was like, I hope Vegas is ready for some physicality. I was like, did you watch this last series? And the response was, there's no physicality in the WNBA like AT physicality. And it's 100% spot on. So, I just think that we're in store for a really good, respectful battle without a lot of chit chat, because Phoenix's fan base isn't about to point fingers, and the Vegas's fan base isn't about no. There should be nobody on the injury report. There should be no excuses. Everybody's used to physical play. There should be, and I'm not dogging Indiana, but that fan base has become accustomed to finger pointing and defending Caitlin Clark, and they only had this, and they lost Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark and Sid Colson, and they had all these people on, and then in that final game, Aaliyah Boston fouled out, Kelsey Mitchell leaves. I get it, but there's more excuses and finger pointing and blaming, and I don't want to make it seem, when I say excuse making, I don't want to make it seem like they're like that's their style. They're not making excuses. Their fans are. How's that? Because Stephanie White's done a great job, and she's a fantastic coach. So, anyway, I'm just really excited to be there and sort of honored to be able to cover, guys, my third WNBA Finals in 4 years. Realistically, people keep saying that the Aces are back for their third Finals in 4 years. I think that people forget that this is also their 4th and 6th. Don't forget that they went to the finals in the bubble and lost to the Seattle Storm when Breanna Stewart and Sue Bird were still with that team, and Jewel Lloyd, by the way. So this is the Aces with Asia and Jackie. This is their 4th trip to the WNBA Finals in 6 years, going back to 2020.
Willie G. Ramirez joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little WNBA. And Willie, you mentioned it, the Cheryl Reeve come apart during the Lynx's loss to Mercury. And you talked about the physicality. You know, will the physicality be under the microscope? Will the officiating be under the microscope in this series, do you think, with that backdrop?
No. Well, I mean, not any more than I think that it already was. I think the problem that a lot of the coaches and the players have is consistency. You can't call something in the first quarter, not in the third, and then again in the fourth. You can't ignore something for the first half and then the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter start calling something, and then all of a sudden it decides a game. Like, you just can't do it. If you're not going to be consistent, then swallow the whistle. If you're going to call a physical game, then call a physical game. Then do it for all 40 minutes. What you cannot do is be inconsistent. You know what I mean? You cannot ignore Asia getting elbows in the paint. I mean, let's just say for argument's sake, I'm not saying she's this style of player, so I would never call out DeWanna Bonner, which she's a beautiful human being. She's a wonderful person. Let me just put that out there. I'm using it as an example, hypothetical. Let's say DeWanna Bonner's throwing elbows in the first half, and they're not calling anything. So Asia decides to get physical, and they're having a physical battle through the middle of the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, they start calling everything. You just can't do that. And vice versa. You're going to call it in the first and then all of a sudden not call it in the second half. Don't do that. And I think that's the bigger problem. The one play that sent Cheryl over the edge was that they didn't call the foul for incidental contact. And what happened was on that, and why everyone was calling Alyssa Thomas dirty, is because it resulted in an injury, and then you see Cheryl Reeve go as ballistic. And I think people actually believe that it was because of it was because Nafisa was injured that she got so riled up. And I believe it was more so that the refs didn't have control of calling the game properly. I'm of the firm belief that no matter how they were calling that game, that injury would not have been prevented regardless of how they called it. AT stepped inside, went for the ball. Fee came across the body. Her leg ran into AT. AT kept going with her motion moving forward and jacked that leg, which caused Fee to twist her ankle. It was a hardcore physical basketball move that was unavoidable. No matter how you're calling that game, Alyssa Thomas is not playing that ball any differently. I firmly believe that Cheryl just going off escalated the whole complexion of the play. But I don't think that Alyssa Thomas is a dirty basketball player. We all appreciated Connecticut's physicalness under Stephanie White, by the way, and Kurt Miller and Stephanie White, when it was Dejanay Carrington, when it was Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner. They went to the WNBA Finals under Kurt Miller with Connecticut, and they lost to the Aces. Stephanie White was the coach at Connecticut, coached a very physical Connecticut team, who, by the way, is the team that everyone was blaming for beating up on who? Caitlin Clark last year, who was the coach, Stephanie White. So there's a lot of hypocrisy among the fan base and critics when you look at the dynamics of where the players and coaches are this season, and all of a sudden we're crying foul. I think they just need to buckle down and have consistency with this officiating. And I think you're going to see it because I think these two teams are very similar. They can go up and down the court. Phoenix has been better defensively, but Vegas has improved. Vegas can play physical. Phoenix can play physical, and they can both push an up-tempo game.
With that being said, Willie, I'm also wondering, does this extra eyeballs now that this is kind of quote unquote blown up into a bigger situation? I want to draw the assignment to be an official at the highest level, but man, all of a sudden it seems like there's going to be an exorbitant amount of pressure for this crew or in these crews to make sure every night is kind of run as smooth as possible. So I'm hoping, like you said, that it flows pretty smooth.
How about this? Every July, what takes place in Vegas? The NBA Summer League for 10, 11 days.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people realize that the referees that are used in that 11 days, they are actually at a referee camp. They're actually learning. It's like you have to earn your way in, and that's your training ground. It's like going to referee camp, but you're getting to referee first and second year rookies, first and second year players in the NBA. So it's an NBA sanctioned event, and the refs are learning too. Why not reach an agreement with this upcoming CBA where Athletes Unlimited and Unrivaled referees are maybe training to be WNBA? Or how about even further, start using G League referees as a training ground for WNBA referees, since the NBA owns or has a vested stock, obviously, as the big brother of the WNBA. It would make perfect sense, right? If you start implemented in the G League, and then, like I said, the two off-season leagues that are made up of these women, you all have Athletes Unlimited for a second season right there in Nashville. They're coming back. They've signed a boatload of WNBA players again. So I think there's opportunities to provide off-season camps for these referees, get them paid, and also get them learning sort of the way that the women play. You sort of get to learn the styles. 3-on-3 or 5-on-5, you're getting to learn the personalities and how they attack the ball and how they attack their opposition.
Willie, officiating has been a topic of discussion throughout this WNBA season, and that, among other things, was on Nafisa Collier's mind earlier this week when she, in her exit interview, addressed a number of concerns that she had with the leadership of the league. Things have kind of calmed down a little bit from that, but what is the lasting impact of what Fee had to say earlier this week, do you think?
We're going to find out in about 3 hours and 13 minutes when Kathy Engelbert takes the stage in the press conference room at Mandalay Bay in the basement of Michelob Ultra Arena. I don't know what's going to come out of this, but I've had personal conversations with Kathy. I've talked to her one-on-one. She's been gracious in a lot of the stuff that I've requested since the Aces arrived here. We've talked to her in scrums. I've asked her for one-on-ones and personals. She's never said no. But in her capacity as commissioner right now, I think she's under a lot of fire. I think she's under a lot of pressure. I'm not sure how much stock I put in the report that came out that she's ready to resign after the CBA is resolved. I'm just really interested in how she's going to handle the press conference today, because she's going to answer. It's almost, somebody said, I sent out a screenshot of the press release that just said Kathy Engelbert media availability on, Friday. And I just put, you ready? And one of my colleagues put, yup. And my reply was a GIF of Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell, and the boys walking through Tombstone from the movie Tombstone, because she's going to be under a firing squad today. And I'm just going to go in there to watch and listen, because I won't need to ask any questions, because, the big wigs from around the country that are in town, the national media, they're going to ask everything that needs to be asked. There's really nothing that I can think of or anyone else can think of that's not going to be covered. So I'm just going to sit back and sort of absorb everything, because it'll be interesting. So to answer your question, the lasting effects of Nafisa Collier's comments and all the players that have stepped up to say something since then in support of her, it comes full circle today with how Kathy Engelbert responds. She put a statement out, but to hear what she says to specific questions is going to really tell us a lot.
Get your popcorn ready, as Terrell Owens would say. Willie G. Ramirez of ESPN in Las Vegas joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll be keeping an eye on the WNBA finals. We'll be keeping an eye on WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, and be keeping an eye on Willie G. Willie, we appreciate it. I know you got your fit picked out for tonight?
I do. Somebody wants to say hi. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Come on.
Hang on.
Oh, my
Get on
goodness.
in there.
Kalua wanted to say hello.
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 Kalua wanted to
cutie.
say hello. He's getting ready to go. He's getting ready to go to his own press conference. He goes to a really high, fancy pet resort on my long days. So he's bugging me now. He knows it. If I say we're going to see the doggies, he's ready to go. So we're prepped and ready, man. I feel bad because Mo's hit me up on the worst times in the last 10 days, and I've said no like 3 times. So when he said, "Can you come on game 1?" I couldn't say no to my guy. Had to see you, Wade. But I'm under the gun here. I got about 70 minutes to get there. So I do have a fit picked out. And I'm going to jump in the shower, get there, get Kalua to the pet resort, and, man, brace myself for Kathy Engelbert and the Aces and Mercury game 1.
Lock and load, baby.
There you go, man. We appreciate you taking some time. We'll catch up with you.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you, Willie.
All right. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stick around.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Third, 1995. Chipper Jones's ninth inning two-out solo home run gave the Braves a one-run lead, and Mark Wohler struck out Andres Galarraga and Lance Painter with the bases loaded to preserve a Braves 5-4 win at Colorado in Game 1 of the NLDS. It was a bit of a reverse reunion because in addition to Galarraga, other future Braves in the opposing dugout included Eric Young Sr. and Walt Weiss. Former Brave Vinny Castilla gave the Rocks an early lead with a two-run homer off starter Greg Maddux. Atlanta went on to win the series 3-1 en route to the World Series championship that year. That was this day in Braves history. Who's our 2025 World Series champion? Oh, we're getting closer to figuring it out. It won't be Cleveland, San Diego, or Boston because all three were eliminated in Wild Card Series Game 3s yesterday. Again, got a feel for the Guardians, that massive charge that they made to claim the AL Central championship over a spiraling Detroit, only for the Tigers to come back and double them up 6-3 yesterday to advance. Again, the Cubs 3-1 over San Diego, and the Yankees 4, Boston nothing after Boston won Game 1. Two chances for the Red Sox to close New York out at Yankee Stadium, but wasn't to be.
Wasn't meant to be. And yeah, heartache for the Guardians. And all of a sudden, the Tigers, doesn't feel like they're all the way back, but it feels like they're pretty much back. What a crazy September that it was for those two franchises. And that was cruel, the way that obviously it panned out. And, you wonder what Cleveland, how they might have fared against a different team in the opening round here. You also wonder how Detroit might have fared against a different team. But so much history and so much familiarity between those two franchises. And, yeah, it just really got away from Cleveland down the stretch yesterday. Got off to a decent enough start, tying the game in the bottom of the fourth there. But then when they had to go to the bullpen, that sixth and really the seventh inning is just turned into credit to them for bouncing back, scoring a couple runs late to make it a little respectable, have maybe a decent shot to get back into it. But that seventh inning, Detroit just cracked it open. You could just feel the air completely sucked out of Progressive Field. It was a sad kind of scene to watch for that fan base.
Really was. So, again, that was big, but I think this Yankees win with the young 24-year-old Cam Schlittler getting the start for the Yankees, and man, did he answer the call. I mean, 8 innings, 12 strikeouts, no walks. Boston only got one runner into scoring position, and that was second base against him. He gave up 5 hits over that 8 innings. Boston, again, did not advance a runner any further than second base. It's tough to win under those conditions. This is a kid who barely topped 90 as a collegiate pitcher, and he was triple digits on the regular last night. I don't know how you increase your velo to that degree. I need to talk to somebody, not for me, but just to understand it. But man, he was throwing gas last night, and Boston couldn't do anything with him.
Yeah, credit to the Yankees. I mean, the few Yankees fans that I really appreciate and value in my life, I was doing a wellness check on them after game 1, and the script was already written. There's tons of content out there, and there's pods where the Yankees fans are, season's over, we're done, and then poof, in the blink of an eye, they pick themselves up off the mat, and now we set up ourselves. We just talked about a divisional showdown. We get a really, really fun one when the Yankees and Blue Jays get to square up tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, no question. That again, another all AL East matchup there in that one. Certainly something to keep an eye on, and don't sleep on Detroit and Seattle on the other side in the American League.
And also, real quick, Mo, how about the Cubs rallying, but also putting a little hurting on their ex-guy and Yu Darvish yesterday. The Cubs said, "See you later, bud," and bounced the Padres. It was a tough, hard-fought series. A lot of folks thought the Padres, despite the year that the Cubs had, would be favored in that series, but Chicago showing a little backbone as well, setting themselves up for a fun one in the division versus the Brewers. All 4 of these matchups. The postseason, in my mind, begins tomorrow. It was fun and cute that we kind of got to watch these games, and there was a little drama mixed in, but it really gets cranked up tomorrow.
Milwaukee and Chicago have never met in the postseason, and that, as close as they are and the way those fans intermingle and that kind of thing on the regular, that should be an interesting series. But again, the Dodgers and Phillies are also big as well. The Dodgers, best team money can buy, supposedly. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if Philadelphia can overcome some of the injuries that kind of slowed them down in the second half. So you got 4 good ones, like you said. Let's go ahead and take a break here at the top of the hour as we wrap up hour number 1 of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, hour number 2, we'll jump into the grab bag. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hey, welcome back into hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. This is the grab bag. We mentioned it at the top of the show during the rundown, I guess. David Wilson and I yesterday discussed this game a little bit, and I didn't know who Mac Jones was going to have to throw to, because in addition to starting quarterback Brock Purdy being out for the 49ers, they were down 3 receivers as well, including Juwan Jennings and I
Ricky
just
Pearsall.
went blank. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall. Both were out, as well as Jordan Watkins. Well, they figured something out. 49ers 26, Rams 23 in overtime. The 49ers improved to 4-1 with that big NFC West victory there. Didn't get to see much of it because I was watching my own football, but yeah, under the circumstances, this is a particularly big win, I would think, for the 49ers.
Yeah, massive, massive win. And this is easily the type of game, Mo, that we talked about they would lose in a heartbeat last year in that season from hell. They still got a lot of injuries, and even there's some concerns about Christian McCaffrey a little bit last night. But credit to the 49ers, who at one point threatened to just bully and just run away with this game, up as much as, 14 on the Rams. And then we see the Rams, that they are about as good as advertised. And even on a night where they didn't get off to a great start, they rallied to get back into it. I loved what I saw in limited minutes, like you said, due to some other duties last night. But Matthew Stafford continues to show why he's one of the best there absolutely is to maybe ever do it in this game. But Puka Nacua is absolutely on a season like we have not seen in a long, long time. And they got Kyron Williams incorporated in the passing game. Got all the way back into it. Get all the way into overtime. And we have a repeat of what we saw last week in the Cowboys-Packers situation. This time, Sean McVay says, you know what? I'm not going. I'm not settling. I know there was about 2 minutes left, and maybe the 49ers could have worked themselves into their own field goal and maybe stolen the game back at the death. But the Rams said, no, give us the win. We're not settling for a tie. And going forward on 4th down, McVay comes out and says he didn't do a great job with the play call, but I love the guts. We didn't come all the way and play all this game to tie and to try and settle, quote unquote, for a tie. You're relying on your defense to hold them to a tie at that point. So I like the move. I like the call. It just didn't work out. But yes, credit to the 49ers who are now, 4-1 and have gotten a 3-0 start on all road games thus far.
That ain't bad. So especially in this league. So definitely be something to keep an eye on as the season progresses. They've already got 3 wins on the road under their belt. The 49ers do, without basically Brock Purdy and at least 2 of their key receivers. So
yeah, and Mac Jones, last night, I don't know if you saw the clips. He's throwing up on the sidelines. The guy literally had no more fluid in his body to puke, and he rallies and gets back in the game. And not only does he get back in, he throws another TD. He leads them to the win. They're in first place in the division. It'll be interesting to see what Seattle's got in store, to see if they can match them at 4-1. Just kind of like last year, that is one of the most competitive divisions from top to bottom. And we ain't even got to a team at the bottom of the NFC West standings, but we'll talk about them in a minute. But yes, epic stuff last night from the 49ers in a quote-unquote road game, because there was a lot of red in that stadium last night out there at SoFi.
We will talk about that team at the bottom of the NFC West standings right now as the Tennessee Titans get ready to visit the Arizona Cardinals. Again, that's a 3:05 kick on CBS on Sunday afternoon. The Titans obviously looking for their first victory of the season. Arizona 2-2 going into that matchup. And as you consider the Titans at this point, it's just tough to see. You consider the Titans, you consider the schedule, you consider where they're at. It's tough to see where a win is going to come from. And it's tough to see it being this Sunday, really.
It's tough to envision just because of where they're at. These next two games are their best two shots right now to get wins. So, you got this game. But if you lose this game, even though Vegas is a, quote unquote winnable opponent in theory next week out there, you'll be entering at 0-5, and who knows where the confidence might be. But as far as this, Arizona got off to a flying start, and, hold your jokes on the Saints and the Panthers, but that was their first two wins of the season. They dropped them in the division to the 49ers and Seahawks since then. I'm still not quite sure of what to make of, because this happened last year too, Mo, right? We saw the Cardinals look really, really good in spurts, but when they were bad, they were really bad. I think they're going to be kind of somewhere in that mix again this year. They're going to be electric at times, and they may reel off 3 or 4 wins in a row and look like they might make a run at a higher seed in the NFC, but then they'll kind of come crashing back to earth. Yeah, this could be a gettable game for the Titans, but they got a million questions to try and answer to do so.
If they can get it, they need to get it, because, again, it doesn't get a whole lot easier, it doesn't feel like. And you feel like if whatever success the Titans are going to have, Jeffrey Simmons is going to be in the middle of it. Through 4 games, he's got 7 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for a loss, and a forced fumble. You would think that getting those kind of numbers from a defensive lineman, you would just luck into a win some kind of way. Clearly that hasn't been the case, but Simmons is the first Tennessee Titan, according to Jim Wyatt of TitansOnline.com, the first Titans player to put up those kind of numbers since Albert Haynesworth had 9 QB hits, 7 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble in 2008. So you're talking about almost 3 decades, well, 2 decades since somebody has done something like that. And, to see it all for naught to this point, it's really kind of tough.
Yeah, he's playing at a elite level. He's an all-pro level player thus far through the first couple weeks of the season. That's the good news for him, and the good news in a sense for the Titans. The bad news is he can't do it all by himself, even on that defensive line. And Sweat's absence, he's going to miss the next 2 still as he comes back from IR. If Sweat were in this mix, then who knows what that production might look like. Even if the numbers don't quite look the same, Simmons' impact would be just that much more effective. Them two play off each other so well, as we saw last season. So it has been exciting. It has been, a true testament to his professionalism, if nothing else. And as I said earlier too, though, he's kind of improving his stock, you might say, as the season goes along. He may not, be a bad asset for somebody saying, hey, if we could go out and get a guy that's playing at an all-pro level and we need a piece on the defensive line, he'd be one of the first guys I'd look at.
Well, and, sometimes you're not just playing for your team. So, waiver wire news for the Titans. Former Green Bay offensive tackle Brant Banks was awarded to the Titans after being waived earlier this week. 6'7", 306, signed as a UDFA out of Rice in May, had been on both the practice squad and the active roster for the Packers. Got into 2 games, mostly on special teams. Again, this roster is one that needs help everywhere, and you would think 6'7", 306 at an offensive tackle, you could do worse. So not sure where he fits in at this point, but Brant Banks out of Rice is with the Titans as an offensive tackle. Something to keep an eye on.
That's something to keep an eye on, because yes, that right off side of the offensive line without Latham, who again did not practice yesterday or Wednesday. you would think trending toward missing yet another game. It has been an absolute turnstile over there on the right side of the line. So this is encouraging news for Banks, to say the least, but not necessarily exciting news for the Titans. To me, kind of seems like, hey, we just got to bring in somebody, and either they can push who's already here, or, heaven forbid, we might have to have somebody who's brand new try and get in the mix and fix this thing.
Right. A little United Football League news coming out of the league office earlier today. Hang on. Come on. My computer is not cooperating with me. Bottom line, the Showboats are no longer in Memphis. After a thorough analysis of all markets and venues, the United Football League has made the difficult decision to depart from the Memphis, Michigan, and San Antonio markets. Unfortunately, due to stadium constraints, the available venues in these areas do not align with our new vision of focusing on smaller, more intimate settings that elevate the fan experience. It's interesting. So, again, attendance in Memphis had not been great the last couple of years, and particularly this past season, and this was something that we kind of conjectured at as the season progressed. Well, we've got official word. The Memphis Showboats are no longer a part of the United Football League, for those who keep up with that kind of thing.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers to those hundreds that are affected over there in Memphis that actually showed up to the games, right?
Yeah. And with it goes a great color scheme, though, man. I really enjoyed their merch. I never broke down and got any, but it's unfortunate that Memphis is no longer. And I guess when you're not drawing to start with, those numbers can really get swallowed up in the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. Is that what they called it? Formerly the Liberty Bowl. So be interesting to see where the UFL does land with its markets for the 2026 season, but Memphis won't be among them. Shifting gears, Wade, you and I have not had a chance together to talk about the events of Wednesday night when the Nashville Soccer Club brought home the cup, but fans will be able to celebrate at Geodis on Sunday following that 2-1 win out at Austin on Wednesday night. Between now and Sunday, though, there's the little matter of an MLS game at CF Montreal tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, and that's going to be one as far as, it's right back to the grinder. You wanted to take care of business in Austin. You took care of business in Austin, and a massive, massive achievement, not just for the franchise, but for, the state of Tennessee and for an expansion team. If you're a younger franchise now in the MLS, NSC has kind of proven that you can have instant success in, their younger years here. But yes, NSC is going to be favored in this game, even though it's in Montreal tomorrow afternoon. It'd be real, real nice. I know those guys, I could not imagine going out and playing a hard-fought match on Wednesday night, celebrating as you were, and justly so, and then turning around, flying to Montreal, and then trying to win another MLS game. I'll be curious on the team selection for tomorrow. These guys are pros, so I'm assuming we'll see a lot of the heavy hitters, but Nashville would be really, really nice to see them sustain that momentum and pick up a big road victory. Even a point would, I'll give you a little grace for just getting a point at Montreal because of the week you had here, but it'd really, really be nice to come home with at least one, if not three.
It would, and if we want to see them at Geodis Park beyond Sunday afternoon and beyond their season finale in a couple of weeks against Inter Miami, they need to get some points tomorrow. NSC 6 in the 15-team Eastern Conference table right now. They need at minimum to be fourth to get another home game to open the playoffs. So this should win, need to win tomorrow for the boys in gold.
Absolutely, but this is, classic setup, right? I mean, this is a not great Montreal team, but you're going on the road. You're coming off an emotional week. You got the highs. This is the real challenge with multiple competitions is, okay, we summited the mountain. We won the championship. We won that first ever trophy in franchise history. Now we got to go play little old Montreal on the road. I mean, it is hard to mentally shift back into those modes. And you see it in Europe all the time with Champions League and other competitions. It can turn into a real grind. So this will be about as big of a real test of where NSC could be. It's certainly not the biggest game because that was the biggest game by a million miles on Wednesday. But this is a massive game to kind of show you just really what they're about. If they could somehow at least get a point but definitely come up with the win, this is the type of wins that real big boy teams kind of go on the road and grab.
Right. The Predators open their regular season, Thursday against visiting Columbus. Doesn't look like at this point Luke Evangelista is going to be around for that season opener. When is Luke Evangelista going to be around? It's a good question. Negotiations are, I guess, ongoing, but it has been reported that the first offer that the Predators made to the young forward was 2 years with a AAV of $1 million per. If that's accurate, when you consider some of the other deals that have been out there for comparable players, it doesn't seem like a very productive offer for the Preds to Evangelista, and maybe it explains why he's not here yet.
Yeah, and this is a kid, that Nashville, whether their plan is to, have him be a part of the franchise forever and ever and one of their core components, or it's to continue to develop him and, maybe end up sending him on to somebody else via a trade. Either way, you got to get this deal done because this is a guy that was one of the only offensive bright spots at times for your team last year. Be nice to get him going. And this will be fascinating too. I don't know how this plays out, but they got Brady Martin dangling out there, and he is right on the cusp of perhaps making the roster this season. You could go ahead, you could do some PR wizardry and try and bring Martin up, but it's not going to eventually mask the fact that, this deal needs to get done for Evangelista because he was a guy that kind of kept you afloat when hope was really not there for a good stretch of your year last year. It'd be nice to see him done, whether he's in the long-term picture or not, in my opinion.
Back-to-back 30-point seasons. 32 2 years ago, 39 last year. I mean, he's been productive when he's been here. This one could leave a mark, but you also kind of wonder what the Preds are thinking from the standpoint that they picked up a forward earlier this week off waivers. Tyson Jost, who played last year at Carolina, is now a Pred. Played in 39 regular season games last year, 9 points, 4 goals and 5 assists. Also spent time in the AHL with Chicago. Former first-round selection of the Avalanche back in 2016, has played with Colorado, Minnesota, Buffalo, and the aforementioned Hurricanes. So I don't know. You got to feel like those are connected, though, right?
It seems like, if a deal doesn't get done, and if nothing else, adding a little depth. We see this with the Titans, of course. Or you bring in somebody right toward the end of camp, and it's like, okay, if we need you, you're a piece. I don't think you're bringing this guy in to be, hopefully, if he ends up being a pivotal piece of your franchise, then that things have gotten off to a bad start. But just a little depth, little extra piece. We've seen some injuries pop up, early in the season. The Panthers have already dealt with a handful too. So a little depth never hurt nobody. But yes, long-term picture, maybe not for the Preds, I would imagine.
Yeah. NASCAR Cup Series playoffs go to Charlotte this weekend. This is the final race in the round of 12, and it's a pivotal race for Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Austin Cindric, all of whom are on the outside looking in at the round of 8 as of right now. Only one of them can win, so 3 of those guys are headed home or heading into non-playoff driver status for the remainder of the season following Charlotte. So big race, particularly for those 4 guys Sunday.
Yeah, and if you don't make the cut, it's got to be a fascinating mental shift because you go from being in complete contention to my initial inclination would be, well, if I can't win it, I'm going to make sure so-and-so doesn't, right? I'm going to do everything I got to do to play spoilers. So be fascinated to kind of see how that all plays out as we come down the stretch here.
Let's take a break
Hey,
here.
real quick, Mo, I did want to mention for that U.S. Open Cup trophy party, tickets are free. That event is at 5 o'clock, but you do have to RSVP. You can find that at NashvilleSC.com. Make sure you check that out because you do need an official ticket, even though it's a free event.
There we go. A little public service announcement.
Yeah, we brought it up, so I wanted to at least, for the folks that wanted to, maybe the Titans game gets out of hand by halftime and you want to go ahead and head on out to the block party, there's how you can do it.
There we go. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be joined by Nick Kelly to talk a little college football, Southeastern Conference style. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now from AL.com is Nick Kelly. As we mentioned earlier in the show, big college football game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama tomorrow, where the 10th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide hosts number 16 Vanderbilt. Nick, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, good to be with you. Yeah, we're used to, I think, Tuscaloosa being the center of the college football world at times, but for Vanderbilt to be the other half of that formula is a pretty wild place to be. And frankly, if you told someone that maybe 2 years ago that Alabama Vanderbilt would be a ranked game and College Game Day would be there, they might check your sanity, make sure you're doing all right, make sure you hadn't hit your head. Yet here we are.
And Vanderbilt will be entering with a win in the last two times these teams met, right?
I know. That's what's wild. I mean, if Vanderbilt wins this game, this will be the first back-to-back winning streak, if you will, for Vanderbilt against Alabama since the 50s. So it's been, almost 70 years.
So to your point, I don't even know if they would check your sanity, Nick. I think they would probably just check you in somewhere. But there's a nice piece on yahoosports.com yesterday. I was reading it by Nick Wolkin, who I believe is, not Nick Wolkin, Dan Wolkin, who is a Vanderbilt graduate, I believe. And in it, you could really kind of tell with the insight that he was writing that article with. But on the, the resurgence of Vanderbilt football and Vanderbilt athletics as a whole. It's a nice piece. Go check it out if you're interested. But Nick, in light of Vanderbilt's win in this series last year, what have you seen out of this Alabama team in its preparation this week under second-year coach Kalen DeBoer?
It seems different than it was a year ago. I think that this game was viewed maybe as a trap game, and Alabama was riding that high from the Georgia game, an emotional game, a really fun game. It wasn't just a good win. It was a very exciting game. Even if you weren't a fan of Alabama or Georgia back in that 2024 game, Ryan Williams, announced himself to the college football world with that game. So there was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of, hey, Nick Saban, who kind of vibe. And I think it was hard to pivot to a team that had historically been a punching bag in the SEC and come into that game and prepare for it properly. I mean, these people are humans. They're young men. They're human beings. And I'm not surprised there's a hangover. But now you fast forward to this year, it's kind of fool me once, shame on Vanderbilt, fool me twice, shame on Alabama. And Alabama's refocused. I mean, they say we remember what happened a year ago. And I think they also want to prove that this is a different team. It's a different year, where last year they didn't handle success well. They didn't respond well at times. It would be a roller coaster of up and down. I think they want to prove that's not the case here. But then again, this is a good Vanderbilt team. So this is not like a team that they have to try not to overlook. I mean, it's a ranked game.
And it feels like, Nick, that not only does Vanderbilt have their attention from last year, but this Alabama team probably refocused itself after its season opening loss to Florida State, which, I don't think is as bad a loss now as it felt like at the time either. But at the same time, again, different Alabama focus for Vanderbilt, different Alabama focus for the rest of this season after that loss to get things started.
Without a doubt, I think that's a key difference that you point out, because Alabama didn't have a loss going into Nashville last year and playing Vanderbilt. This year they do. They had that embarrassing loss. And Nick Saban used to tell his players all the time, an embarrassed team is a dangerous team. Alabama got embarrassed. Alabama looked bad in that week 1 game, and you don't quickly wash that off of you. And so I think that has motivated them. And that's why you've seen ever since that game a team that looks like it has an edge, looks motivated. And I think that woke them up. And so maybe in hindsight, you look back at the season as a whole, you might say that Florida State game was real pivotal for Alabama. But I think at the time it certainly felt like, oh no, what's about to happen this season? So we'll see. There's a lot of tough games left, but I do think that Florida State game really helped focus this group.
Nick, as Alabama obviously has kind of tried to distance himself as much as possible from FSU. Ty Simpson was squarely in everybody's crosshairs as that game kind of unfolded. But he has kind of grown up. The little baby's grown up right before our very eyes, right? And I'm curious, what have you maybe seen from him that either you like or you maybe think that is even still to come for this guy as he kind of continues to emerge as one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC at this juncture?
Martin, Tennessee's own, right?
Right.
He's a guy who has rose up the ranks from, becoming a 5-star quarterback. And that's kind of what was interesting. I think a lot of the discourse, just because Ty did not start prior to this season, that we almost treated him nationally. I say we just from a national media perspective. It's almost like he was talked about as if he was a walk-on, like a Stetson Bennett type. I mean, this guy was a 5-star quarterback, and Nick Saban recruited him. Nick Saban wanted him. So I think people forget that. So he finally has his opportunity now. And I think that just from a confidence standpoint, you are seeing a poised individual, a guy who not only is looking poised as a quarterback, but also a leader. I mean, I think people have seen the clips of him giving the speeches to Alabama in the locker room and outside the tunnel, and just a guy who clearly is ready for this moment. And he's obviously had to wait a while. Everyone knows that. But I think you're seeing finally all that pay off. And even from the Florida State game to the Georgia game, I asked him going into the Georgia game, hey, how are you different than your first road start? Yeah. He said, I feel more comfortable. I think we saw that. He didn't look tense. He didn't look like he didn't know what to do or didn't quite know when to pull the trigger, didn't quite know when to run. He just looked decisive. Surgical was the word that I kept thinking of watching him play. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, not everything was perfect. I think he had that in the first quarter, that throw that was almost intercepted. So I think he'd like that one back. But overall, I mean, he just looked way more comfortable, way more confident. And I think a lot of people prematurely wrote him off after his first start, which was on the road against a good defense. And so all of a sudden people are saying, oh no, this guy can't, do they need to look at someone else? And it's like, no, just have some patience, see what he does once he gets some good reps under his belt. And that's what I think the Wisconsin ULM games did for him to help him move forward and be ready for that moment in Georgia like he was.
Other thing I wanted to ask offensively here, Nick, is I know Kalen DeBoer's an offensive-minded guy, and I know he, has worked with some great quarterbacks and put up some eye-popping kind of passing numbers. Where would you say that either he or the program kind of views their rushing attack right now? Because it seems they've got some great backs, obviously, but it just seems like nobody's really kind of stepped up and become a feature back. Am I wrong on that, or where do they kind of evaluate their running game at the moment?
Yeah, you're not wrong at all. I think that the running game has been lacking. And no, it's not going to be the source of offensive success, I think, in this system, because they have some studs at receiver. I mean, that's probably the strength of their team. Ryan Williams hasn't even played that well for the games he's been in. I mean, he had that drop, and he's made plays, so don't get me wrong, he hasn't been like non-existent, but he hasn't been at some elite level, and they still have had an elite passing attack because of Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, Latsier Brooks. So as far as the running game, they don't need it to be their basically the thing that is getting them success. But at the same time, they do need it to be enough to where they can have some balance.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that we need to monitor is Jam Miller, see how he kind of evolves and improves as he comes back, because that Georgia game was his first game back from a collarbone, dislocating a collarbone, I should say. And so, yeah, I think it made sense that he wasn't at an elite level in that first game back, and plus a good Georgia run defense. So yeah, we'll kind of see how he progresses as he gets more games under his belt, because that was his first game. So to me, he's the answer. They need him to return to what he's done before. He's an experienced guy. He's made plays before. So they need him to come back and really continue to block well and trying to make sure they open holes for him. And so we'll kind of see how it progresses, but I think you're right. It needs to be better.
Nick Kelly of AL.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Nick, going back to Ty Simpson for just a second, you mentioned he's from Martin, Tennessee. His dad, Jason Simpson, is the coach at UT Martin. Where do you see the coach's son come out in Ty as you watch him?
I'll give you one small example I thought of. I think it was after either the Wisconsin game or the ULM game, where Ty walks out for his interviews, and the quarterback usually goes to there's like the podium that DeBoer talks at in Bryant-Denny. Afterward, a lot of the other players go throughout the room, but just because so many people want to talk to the quarterback, they figure that's maybe the best spot to put him. He walks up, he's holding stats. He's got a stat sheet that he wants to look from and pull from, and as he talks to reporters. Normally you don't see players walk up with a stat sheet. So to me, that was this is the son of a coach. But that's just one small way. I think just his presence and wanting to lead and really just trying to uplift teammates, trying to, you get the sense that, yeah, this guy's been around coaching, not just from even Jason Simpson, but also you think about Nick Saban. I mean, Ty Simpson has talked to Nick Saban in other capacities since Saban retired to get his opinion, his take. So, yeah, I think Ty wants to become a coach. He said that before. Whenever he's done playing football, maybe a long time from now, he wants to become a coach like his dad. And so, yeah, you definitely get, just as he's thinking about things, as he's processing things, you can tell that this guy grew up around coaches.
It's pretty amazing to me that we have talked this long about a game involving Vanderbilt, and we have not mentioned the name Diego Pavia.
I was waiting.
Understandably, but, I think as you watch this Vanderbilt team, I think it's kind of dangerous if you think of them as Diego Pavia and the gang also.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think that they have more around Diego than they had last year. But a lot of the same kind of cast of characters, though, or the villains, if you will, for Alabama are back. Eli Stowers back. Blanking his first name, but Sherrill at receiver. He's back. I mean, the running back as well. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of dudes there that can still give them problems, gave them problems a year ago. And it's going to be fascinating to see if Alabama can adapt. And because overall, it's not just against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt's offense. Alabama's struggled to stop the run of late. This is not a run defense that has been elite. And we saw it against Florida State. So can Alabama stop a mobile quarterback? That's been a struggle at times under Kane Womack and his defense the past season and change. So it's going to be fascinating to see, but I think the biggest key is going to come down to third downs. Can Alabama prevent Vanderbilt from getting third down conversions? I mean, I think they were 12 for 18 a season ago in Nashville. So yeah, Alabama really needs to slow them down, and that starts with Diego Pavia, but it goes far past him.
Worst case scenario, Alabama drops this game. Worst loss, Florida State or Vanderbilt?
I would say it depends on how Alabama loses it, and that's not a cop-out. I would say the worst loss, if it's close, it'd be Florida State. But if it's not close, I'd say Vanderbilt, because you're at home. I mean, Alabama's struggles on the road are well documented. Hey, first game of the season, Florida State might not be a bad team.
Versus Gus Malzahn, noted Bama killer.
Right, exactly. So I think there's no shame in that. I mean, obviously there is some shame in how they played in that game, especially from an effort standpoint. But yeah, I think it just all comes down to how would they lose the game to Vanderbilt, because obviously Vanderbilt's a good team. Vanderbilt's not just a good story anymore. Vanderbilt is a good team. We'll see how good of a team. I think we need to see the Commodores against a few more teams before we can determine them a really good team. But so far, it's a quality football team. So I don't think there's a shame in losing to them. But losing them at home, a place that Kalen DeBoer has not lost yet, would be notable.
Nick, I wanted to ask you, too. You had pinned this online, and I was glad to see this. Make of what you will about Theo Vaughn being your guest picker for this weekend. But how do we not get James Spann, the Alabama meteorologist legend, who has his own following? How do you? I'm glad you explored that, because how does he not get the nod down there in Tuscaloosa this weekend?
I don't know. I mean, obviously he's a bit of a legend here in Alabama. People know him well, but maybe I think as Reese Davis explained today, Theo Vaughn just has a bigger following and a little bit more. A little more humor, maybe appeals more to a national audience. But yeah, there's a lot of Alabama fans upset because Game Day seems to find ways to maybe get some non-Alabama folks in that spot. But Reese Davis's retort to that was, well, we got an Alabama guy every week, Nick Saban. No one complains about that kind of thing. So I don't know. It just shows you the passion people have when they're upset about it. It's one segment on the show, but I do get why some Alabama fans are frustrated by it, because when it's at your campus, you'd like to see someone with connections to your university.
Interesting that Reese said we've got an Alabama guy every week.
And that's a paraphrase, but that was essentially what he said.
Well, considering where Reese went to school. So, interesting. Only top 25 matchup in the SEC this weekend, but and having walked that SEC beat writer walk, I know that you don't necessarily see a whole lot of ball, Nick, other than the game that you're watching. But what else will you be paying attention to Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, Florida, Texas, I should say, is the other one that I'm just curious to see. Can Florida show some signs of life? Can they get back on track a little bit? Can Texas and Arch Manning show that, okay, all the early season hate or just the doubters, can they be proven wrong? So that's probably the game I'm watching the most. But yeah, it's not quite as good of a slate as, say, last week was. But I think that Florida-Texas game is going to have my attention at least.
Having seen Alabama and Florida State to open the season, let's delve into the ACC for just a second. Give me your thoughts on Miami, Florida State this weekend.
Yeah, I was high on Florida State after seeing them in person week one, but then when we saw what happened against Virginia, I think some of that confidence was a little bit shaken. Miami looks fantastic. I mean, Miami, I think, is a phenomenal football team, and I think they could go a long way this season. And so I think Florida State has a chance to have a good year still. I mean, there's no doubt that they've got a lot of talent there and some things to work with. But Miami might be one of the best teams in college football, and I wouldn't be shocked to see Miami win the whole thing. So probably give me Miami in that matchup just because, I mean, I think they're good on both lines of scrimmage. You've got Carson Beck, who seems to be playing well. And again, this, like you said before, it's a little bit tricky as a beat writer because you can only watch so much of other games. And so I love open weekends because I can actually sit down and watch a little bit more football. But just from what I've gleaned, it seems like Miami's in a really good spot under former Alabama assistant Mario Cristobal. So, yeah, a lot to like there. And Florida State might bounce back, but Miami, I think, is just a phenomenal team.
Nick, I wanted to pivot real quick and talk about the other equation from last week. What did you take away from Georgia, who gets mystified yet again by the Alabama jerseys? And then, they've got Kentucky and Auburn before a potentially massive matchup versus Ole Miss. Is Georgia going to be fine in your mind, or was there something beneath the surface level that you didn't particularly like what you saw last week?
Yeah, I think Georgia has a good team. I'm not writing them off. I think they can still contend for the SEC. I think there's still a lot to like for what Georgia has. But I will say their defensive front did not scare me as much as some of the other ones have. And part of that is just because it's so hard to stack guys like teams like Alabama and Georgia used to be able to. I mean, Alabama's defensive front hasn't been exactly terrifying either. And I think Georgia didn't quite have any guys from those 21 or 22 teams that was like, wow, how are you going to block them? Alabama still kind of found a way to block them in 21, but yeah, there's no like Jalen Carter. I was talking to a few NFL scouts before that matchup, and they kind of had said like Georgia doesn't have those just elite level players like the Brock Bowers or the Jalen Carter or those types that we've maybe become accustomed to them having under Kirby the last couple of seasons. So yeah, I don't know that Georgia scares me like they did in 21 and 22, but I still think it's a good football team. So I think there's a lot of season left. And I still would be surprised if they're not in playoff contention by the November, December time.
We've mentioned them in passing, I suppose. I'm kind of looking around the rest of the SEC. What are your impressions of Ole Miss, who I'm used to, and we're used to seeing them kind of stub their toe already at this point, but they find themselves, at number 4 in the nation.
Yeah, Trinidad Chambliss, what a great story there at quarterback. Fresno State guy coming in and really having an impact. And so, I mean, they're playing well. Those powder blue jerseys looking great. And I think there's a lot to like. I mean, you got former Alabama defensive coordinator Pete Golding there. He's coached in some high-level games. So, yeah, I need to see it all season before I fully buy in on the Lane train, so to speak. But I do think that there's a lot to like there. And I'm not surprised to see them have success. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that. I didn't expect them to be this good. I think that if you look at Lane holistically, you're not surprised to see him succeeding. But I think coming into the year, they weren't maybe at the top of the list of teams I expected. But let's be honest, guys, the SEC top to bottom, whether it be the quarterbacks you expected to be good, the teams you expected to be good, like you almost have to kind of throw all that out the window because it just seems to be so preseason projections just aren't. I mean, it always was kind of a fickle exercise. But it really seems to be the case now with all the transfer portal change and just not knowing what a team's going to be. So to me, it's just really fun if you're just a fan of the game because there is so much upheaval. But Ole Miss, yeah, really impressive so far. And we'll see if Lane can sustain that going forward.
Nick, you talk about upheaval, and we've already seen 4 midseason coaching changes, and we're not even really to the halfway point of the schedule. Anybody you got your eye on that's on the hot seat watch coming off of, Sam Pittman being gone from Arkansas last weekend and Gundy and Foster and prior to that?
I think the obvious one is Billy Napier. I mean, to me, it just seems, unfortunately, like that's not going to work out there for them. I mean, obviously beating a ranked team in Texas would go a long way toward maybe getting that back on track. But I don't know. It just seems like that might be a little bit too far gone unless they can do some complete 180. So that's probably the next one to watch, at least in the SEC, because in a lot of other spots, things are going relatively well. I mean, I don't see anyone that's an imminent, like, okay, man, that guy's in a tough spot unless I'm forgetting someone. But because Oklahoma seems to be playing well with Brent Venables, he'd be a guy who I think coming into the year was a bit on the hot seat, but they've been doing well. Of course, we'll see kind of what post John Mateer life looks like for the time that he's not able to play because of that hand injury. So we'll see what happens there. But otherwise, yeah, I think Pittman and Napier were on the 2 hottest of seats, and Pittman has Arkansas moved on from him, and Napier, will see what happens there.
A little closer to you, not in the SEC, but according to coacheshotseat.com right now, Napier is 1 and UAB's Trent Dilfer is 2.
Yeah, it's another one. That's certainly another one to watch, that things have not gone very well for him in Birmingham. And I think there's some thought that maybe they move on after last year because, I mean, what were they last season? I'll be honest, even though they're nearby, I'm not paying super close attention to UAB. But, yeah, I think that he's one that, of course, there's not the same pressure there as there would be at an SEC program, but certainly has not been working out too well. So, yeah, that seems like a marriage that is destined to split at some point.
Yeah. Nick Kelly from AL.com joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, number 10, Alabama, number 16, Vanderbilt, 2:30 tomorrow on ABC. ESPN Game Day will be there with Nick Saban and Theo Vaughn, among others. Do you really need Theo Vaughn if you've got Pat McAfee, though?
I mean, look, I will say this for all the Alabama fans who aren't happy about Theo Vaughn being there. I don't know if it was the last time he was there, but I do know in recent memory he was there on game day when Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship game in 2023. So it worked out pretty well then. That was when they had the Pat McAfee fake out where he got all the Georgia fans going, and then he's, give me Alabama. And so Theo Vaughn was there for that. So if you're the superstitious type, might not be the worst thing to have Theo Vaughn there.
I like what you're doing there, Nick.
There we go. I like it. Nick, we appreciate you taking some time.
Full here, right?
Yeah,
I got to at
absolutely,
least have a little bit of that. So
for sure. Absolutely. Thanks for taking some time with us, Nick. We appreciate it and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good weekend. Enjoy some football.
You too. See ya.
Absolutely. You too. Let's take a break, our final break of the day, of the week, as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, Wade and I will give you our 10 weekend winners from the Wonder Slate. Use caution. We'll be back.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanana. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it. But it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It's the final segment of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. It is time for the Wonder Slate, as Wade and I give you our 10 weekend winners. Take that with a grain of salt. And probably should tell you, in all seriousness, if you have a gambling problem or if you know someone that does, the number to call to address that is 1-800-GAMBLER. This is for fun. Don't hurt yourself. Wade, shall we get started?
Absolutely. With that setup, let me remind you, folks, that all of our odds this week are brought to you by Circa Sportsbook and our friends at the Mint Gaming Hall. We had a good visit up there on Wednesday. Mo caught some of the Tigers and Guardians game on Wednesday as Cleveland picks up that 6-1 win. Phenomenal setup up there. But, yeah, shout out to our friends at Circa providing our odds for this week's games. With that being said, a little Friday night football, and we delve into the realm of CUSA, a conference only Mo and myself could love, but guess what? We picked the games. Delaware is hosting Western Kentucky tonight, Mo, and the surprising first-year FBS darlings, the Blue Hens, off to a decent little start, 4-1 at this juncture of the season. They're a 2.5 favorite tonight in a 6 p.m. kickoff.
Man, you know, it's well documented how much I hate picking Western Kentucky for obvious reasons. And Delaware in their first year in Conference USA, it's tough. So I'm in a little bit of a conundrum here. I'm going to go with the home team here, but I would not be surprised if Western wins this game outright. But give me the Blue Hens. Give me Jeff Pearlman's Blue Hens here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Blue Hen's going to win this game. The cockpit is going to be rolling tonight as, tragedy will befell them. Calvin and I talked about this. I think they have the goods to maybe even win the league this year. Bad news for them. They're ineligible to compete for the championship. So it could be one of those classic situations we see in March Madness. But yeah, give me the Blue Hens in this one. Here's a fun one, Mo. When the forecasters got together, you think Clemson and Dabo, top ranked. Do you think North Carolina at Chapel Bill there? You put Clemson and North Carolina at a primetime spot. Both teams have struggled so much, Mo, that the game is going to be at 11 a.m. They had scheduled a Ludacris concert pregame. The concert's going to go off at 9:30 a.m. You ain't trying to get Luda out of bed at 9:30, folks. But that's where we are. So with that being said, Clemson, in this putrid little season for both of these teams, is a 14.5-point favorite, Ludacris and all, at North Carolina.
Are we getting Ludacris out of bed for a 9:30 concert, or is he just staying up?
That's what I'm wondering. You just got to pump him full of stuff and keep him upright because, yeah, if he goes to sleep after a night out in Chapel Hill, I don't know if he's getting up for a 9:30 a.m. show. Tough scheduling.
Ooh, yeah. Well, he can thank Dabo and Belichick for that one. Yeah, I don't like this game at all. Because that's a lot of points on the road. But North Carolina's been so putrid that Clemson can cover it. I'm going to go with Clemson, but I'm really uncomfortable with it.
Yep, I think Clemson's low is still a lot higher than North Carolina's low, and both teams are seemingly pretty low right now. It's going to be an ugly game. Good news is we got a number of other.
I doubt that I'll be watching it other than to just check on the carnage. But yeah, give me Clemson.
Yeah, I'm taking the Tigers as well. This might be the last time we have a chance to have either one of these teams featured on the Wonder Slate this year. Speaking of ugly games, 2:30 tomorrow on ESPN, Texas and Florida. It could get ugly or it could be ugly. I'll let you pick your poison, folks. But Mo, Texas is favored by 4.5 down in the Swamp.
Yeah, I think even with whatever you're going to get out of Arch, I think Texas covers 4.5 at Gainesville. Give me the Longhorns here.
I am taking Texas, but man, oh man, this is going to be a putrid football game in terms of offense. It will be a rock fight. Florida probably ends up making some mistake, and the Swamp comes unglued. Texas escapes with a win, maybe to the tune of a 6-point win. Something like a 16-10. I'm almost feeling not even 17-10. Give me 16-10. Texas escapes, and the pressure ratchets up even more on Sir Billy Napier down there in the Swamp. But 2:30 in that showdown. Elsewhere at 2:30 on ESPN2, Virginia, the new darlings, into the top 25 after knocking off FSU. They are immediately at Louisville, and Louisville's favored in this showdown by 6.5.
Unranked Louisville, and a favorite. I'm not sold on Virginia at this point. Go ahead and give me the Cardinals to cover 6.5.
Mo and I are batting 1,000 together, folks, because I don't trust Virginia just yet. Yeah, it's nice, but it reeks of a letdown. And if you told me that Louisville was ranked 24th and Virginia was unranked, I would believe that coming into this game as well. That number can be a little deceiving. Yeah, I think Virginia may be primed for a letdown this week. Give me the Cards. Biggest game, we just talked about it with Nick there. 2:30 ABC, number 16 Vanderbilt, number 10 Alabama. The Tide are favored by 11.5 in this one.
Yeah, I don't like that number. I don't know that Vanderbilt wins. I wouldn't be surprised if they do win, but I don't like Alabama by double digits in this one. Give me the Commodores.
Here's where we go fork in the road. This number's too low for me. If it was 14.5 or above, I'd take this number, Mo. They were hanging 28.5 in the summer, but that's why sometimes it doesn't pay. It does pay if you're a Vanderbilt fan to shop early, I guess. Alabama, I think, wins this game by 4. If you told me they won by 14 points, which gets us over that number, I'd believe that. I do think Vanderbilt is competitive. I do think Pavia will have a pretty impressive day. But I like what I've seen from Alabama, and especially the stock kind of going up for Simpson and those wide receivers. So I'll take the Tide in that 2:30 showdown. 6 o'clock game now. Number 11, Texas Tech. They're favored by 11.5 down at Big 12. Kind of upstart darling here, Houston. Again, 6 p.m. on ESPN.
Man, that's a lot of points for a home team to be giving up, feels like. But I'm going to roll with the Red Raiders here. I'm going to go with the fighting Mahomes is here. Give me Texas Tech.
Yep, best team maybe that money can buy. At least they're working their way toward it. Texas Tech, I think this game is close early. I think maybe even it creeps into the fourth quarter within the realm of 3 or 7 points, but I think Texas Tech pulls away down the stretch. Both teams have covered the spread all but one time in their games, but I think TTU covers coming into this weekend. Speaking of Big 12, we move along to another Big 12 showdown. 6:30 on Big Fox. Colorado is at TCU, and the spread is 13.5, favoring the Frogs.
I hesitate to take the Frogs, but I'm going to take the Frogs right here. And they're on watch for sure. But give me TCU at home.
TCU is my pick as well. 2 reasons. Number one, Ralphie ain't going to be there. Colorado has played 2 games in a row at home now. And, you know, I know they struggled at times last week versus BYU, but looked pretty competitive. Beat Wyoming the week prior. Different ball game on the road, and TCU is going to be out for revenge after Dion and company upset them 2 years ago to kind of really put Colorado on the map. I think TCU, if given the opportunity, will win this by 60. I don't think they'll get to that number, but I think they'll cover 13.5. Give me the Frogs. Other 6:30 kickoff. SEC Network will feature Mississippi State at number 6, Texas A&M. Mo, Texas A&M is favored by 16.5.
I like Texas A&M to win this game. I do not like that number. I saw the way Mississippi State fought last week, had Tennessee on the ropes. Probably should have won that game. Give me Jeff Lebby and the Dogs on the road to cover.
Yeah, you and I are in lockstep this week. I'm feeling what you just said. Mississippi State, you know, we didn't know a lot about them last week. Their first kind of real big test since Arizona State. They look pretty good. And if this number were 13.5, I might blink at Texas A&M. But 17 is a mighty big number, and I like what Shapen and quarterback play has done there at Mississippi State. I'm taking the Dogs in this one. Final 2 games of the weekend. Number 3, Miami at number 18, FSU. This game is a 7:30 kickoff. You can see it on ABC. And Mo, the Hurricanes are favored by 4.5.
Yeah, you know, as we were just talking to Nick a second ago, I like Miami at this number. I like Miami by about a touchdown in this ball game, I think, even on the road. Give me the Hurricanes here.
This feels like a Miami 27-20, you know, something of that nature. Yeah, I think they win by about 7 points. This also feels like a Miami stumble game. They've been known to lay some stinkers in the regular season under Cristobal the last couple of years, but I'm with you. I'm taking the Hurricanes. Final game of the night. You got to stay up till 9:30 on ESPN if you want to watch Duke, who goes for an ACC showdown at Cal, and Duke is favored by 2.5.
And you got to stay up till 9:30 here, which means you got to stay up till 10:30 in Durham. And I don't think that time change does Duke a whole lot of good. I'm going with the Bears here.
I'm taking the Bears too. Give me, they're my sneaky pick to maybe make the ACC title game. What a story that would be. Cal wins that game, in my opinion. 9:30 on ESPN to cap the Wonder Slate.
There we go. That is the Wonder Slate. This has been the weekend warm-up. This is Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Thank y'all for joining us. Join us again Monday at 2 o'clock. It'll be me and Wade taking you through the events of the weekend. Y'all have a great one. We'll see you again Monday.